seated. I just wanted to point out two things first. First off, I am not Father Brett. So if you thought Father Brett got a really big haircut and got a lot shorter, don't be mistaken. No, I'm not Father Brett. He is out this weekend. I also just wanted to say, I'm sorry that this wreath is so big and I'm so short. So I will try to lean as much this way as I can. When we read the gospel, there's this phrase that we always say at the end. We say, "Praise to you, Lord Christ," or "Thanks be to God." And this is one of those passages that is kind of more like a question, where you're just kind of like, "Thanks be to God?" Because, let's be honest, this was kind of a scary passage to read. It's a very big tonal shift from where we've been over the past few months and for the past few weeks. We've kind of gotten set into this pattern over the summer where Jesus heals and he gives a lesson. And then Jesus heals and he gives a lesson. And then Jesus heals and he gives a lesson. And Jesus heals and he gives a lesson. And he heals and he gives a lesson. And then we come to last week and we see Jesus is king of the cosmos and he's king of our hearts. And then we come to today's gospel. It's a little bit different. And it's different because it's Advent. But even though it's different, I hope our prayer remains the same. So I would invite you to pray with me. Oh God, may the words, my mouth, and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. Lord, our strength and Redeemer. Amen. It's Advent, if you didn't know. It's the first Sunday of Advent. And I just want to draw your attention around to some of the differences. First off, this big wreath right here. There's a wreath like up here on the chancel. And Donna, I asked you to do this before, but I'm going to ask you to stand up. And could you stand up as well? Whoa, y'all are in different colors. And when I come over here, whoa, there's different colors right there too. It's blue. It's not green anymore. And there's some greenery that's up there. And if you look around the nave, and you might even want to look at your bulletin, you'll notice there's some other differences. We're saying different words today. And if you were listening to the music, you might know the music was a little bit different too. We're not in ordinary time anymore. We're not in that season after Pentecost. We're in Advent. And things are different because we are telling a different story. And that's one of the things I love about our church is that we're a storytelling church. And the way that we tell those stories is we really create the experience of them. And we surround ourselves with different things, with different colors and greenery, and there's no flowers, with different music, different words in the liturgy. Everything is different. That's because it's Advent. And I keep saying that word, Advent, Advent, Advent. And I think it's really helpful on this first Sunday of Advent just to remind ourselves what Advent is and what Advent might be all about. First off, Advent is the first day of the church year. This is kind of like our New Year's. As I said, we're telling this different story. We are beginning the start of a whole new story. And during Advent and Christmas and Epiphany and those other seasons like Lent and Easter and Pentecost, we tell the same story year after year after year after year after year after year after year. And I bring that up because over the next coming weeks, you might begin to get just a little bit tired of hearing the same stories over and over and over again, year after year after year after year. But the reason that we do that, the reason we tell the same story, is because we're telling a very important story. We're telling the story of Jesus. And that story is important, and so we repeat it year after year after year. Advent is this season of awaiting and of arrival. And I find it helpful sometimes to think about Advent as wearing these different lenses. And I promise I'm not going to sit up here and wear these this whole time. But in Advent, we kind of wear 2 or 3 different pairs of glasses. And in the first lens of Advent, we kind of look back. We look back to this time before Christmas. We kind of place ourselves in the story of Israel. And we remember that time before there was a king, before there was a Messiah. We kind of pretend for these short few weeks that we're back in time, Christmas hasn't come yet. God has said God will work in the world, but all these bad things keep happening all around us. We as a nation, we kind of lost our identity. We got split in half. We got taken from our homes. We kind of lost our place of worship. Our church is gone because our temple got torn down. We didn't have this place of sacrifice where we remembered and celebrated because we constantly had to sacrifice. It was a different time. Bad things kept happening year after year after year after year, generation after generation after generation. There wasn't a Christmas yet. Jesus hadn't come yet. Bad things kept happening. But God said God would work, and so we waited. And we waited. And we waited. Because God said God would work. And so we wait, and we wait, and we wait. And I think that's this first kind of lens of Advent. It's this idea of looking back. I hope you really remember these sunglasses. But we also look forward. Advent's not just about looking back. Advent is about looking forward. We look forward to when Christ comes again. And Advent's kind of this weird in-between state. We look back, but we look forward. And I think that ties right in with today's gospel, where Jesus calls us to look forward, but also to look around. He gives this example of a fig branch. He says you can begin to see the sprouts of the leaves on the fig branch. And that's a foreshadowing of God working in the world. When I look around right now, I can actually see this little tree up there, and these little buds or berries or something on there. But to me, that's a sign of the season changing. And you may have noticed some of the seasons changing on your drive here this morning. Maybe you noticed on your drive here, the leaves aren't really green anymore. In fact, there's no yellows or reds anymore. There's browns and bare. You may have noticed on your drive here this morning that the air is just a little bit crisper. You may have noticed on your drive here this morning, and it might just be me because I drive an older truck, your car took a little bit longer to warm up. The seasons are changing. We look around, we see change. And so we do things differently because of that change. This morning, I wore a coat because it was cold outside, and I wanted to be warm. And in that same way, in today's gospel, it says look forward, look around, see the change, because God is acting and working in the world. In fact, God is coming. Redemption is near. So act differently. Look forward. Wait. And that's kind of these first two lenses of Advent. We look back, we look forward, and we look around. But also in Advent, we look within. We ask this question, where is Jesus coming to us? That's a good question to ask. Where is Jesus coming to us? Both as a people, but also here as a church, here at St. Elizabeth's. Where's Jesus? Where is Jesus coming to you? And I honestly think that is a great question to ask here in Advent. Where is Jesus in your life? Where's Jesus? For you, what is Jesus? Where is he? And where do you see Jesus beckoning you? Where does Jesus want you to come? And perhaps another way of thinking about Advent isn't just us waiting on Jesus, but thinking about it as Jesus waiting on us. Maybe God's the one waiting. Maybe God's the one, and if you remember back in that story, who's just a little bit sad, just a little bit confused. Maybe God's the one who says, I thought you were coming, but I'm still waiting and waiting and waiting. It's Advent. It's a little bit of a weird season. We look back, and that might be just a little bit sad, but we look forward and we look around. And that might be just a little bit scary, like today's gospel, but we also look within, and that's hopeful. But perhaps, maybe in this time of life, you're just a little bit in your own Advent. If we just take like an honest moment, this past 2 years has really kind of sucked. It's been a hard 2 years. Way back in March of 2020, we went into Lent. And then church closed down. And then the world closed down. And it's never quite come back. We've kind of stayed in the never-ending Lent. It's been a really long 2 years. And I think I've mentioned this here before, but I work at Tyson House. I work with college students. And I've been there for about 2 years doing pastoral care. And I meet lots of students. Sometimes I sit outside of Tyson House, and I sit there with my dog, or sometimes I'll even bring a chicken. And this is not a joke. I've done this before. And I just invite people to come, and I talk to them. And when I hear people, I hear the same story over and over and over again. The same story. And it kind of goes like this. I just don't feel God anymore. God left me. God is gone. Or they'll ask me the question, where is God in all of this? I just don't see God. I don't feel God. And maybe that's your story. You don't feel God. You don't see God. It's been 2 years, and then you check the news this weekend, and you thought, oh my gosh, it's just going to keep on going for the rest of our lives. Where's God? And you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. And I just want you to know, if you're there in your own Advent, you're not alone. A lot of us are right here with you in our own Advent. Some of you might be in Christmas. You might be like, woohoo, it's awesome, God's here. But a lot of us aren't. And if you're watching from home right now, on your little screen, you might be feeling that just a bit more. If you're in your own Advent, I wanted to share 2 things with you. And the first is in our liturgy. There's this part in there that's our offertory anthem. And I just wanted to read it to you. It's on page 6, if you didn't trust me and you want to read it. It says this, cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He never will suffer the righteous to fall. He is at thy right hand. Thy mercy, Lord, is great and far above the heavens. Let none be made ashamed that wait upon thee. Let none be made ashamed that wait upon thee. When that comes up on the liturgy, and if you're feeling that, hold on to those lines. But I also wanted to share this last part, and I have found this particularly hopeful for this season for me. We know Christmas is coming because Christmas comes every year. And if you need a reminder of that, a little bit later in the service, we're going to be at this table, and it will be Christmas at this table. When that comes up in the liturgy, hold on to it. And if in the meantime, in the weeks to come, you keep feeling like you're in your own Advent, remember, Christmas is coming. It's not here yet, but Christmas is coming. And until then, wait. Look around, but wait, because we'll all be right here with you.